The newest Disney news pretty much confirms my predictions for the Disney World's coming to Kingdom Hearts 4, and I'm going to explain why in this video, but first, some background context. From a young age, I have loved Disney. I really wanted to be a Disney animator when I was a kid, and I drew like Mickey and Mickey Sorcerer all the dang time. I would basically burn out the VCR player playing all the VHS tapes of the Renaissance Disney movies such as Lion King, Tarzan, Beauty and the Beast. For those of you that are too young to understand, a VCR played these like cassette tapes, and that's where our movies came from, and there was actually film inside of it. So if you wanted to fast forward, rewind, you actually had to go up to the VCR and control it that way. The cassettes were pretty sturdy, and only if it like broke open and like the film came out would you ruin the footage. But yeah, that's how old I am. So when I was younger, I always wanted to draw these cartoons and make movies, right? Make these Disney movies because I was obsessed with them. It was my passion. When I got older, so more like the preteen, early teenage years, I kind of developed that into wanting to be an Imagineer, someone that helped design the rides at Disney World or the overall atmosphere. I was really into the theming of the different resorts and, parks. So that was something that I was really into. I even researched some of it. I remember, so my family was kind of crazy in the fact that when we did go to Disney World, because we didn't have a lot of money, my parents were putting us through private school, all three of us, so blah, 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 blah. It was very rare we would go to Disney World that often, but when we did, they would try to save money by driving us all the way down to Florida, so that was like a 16-hour drive. And I just vividly remember one year, I made a quiz game for the ride down with all these Disney facts and trivia on both the parks, the resorts, and then also Disney characters and Disney films. And I had a real fun time with it. I'm sure I was annoying everyone else in the car, but I was having a great time. And that's how passionate and how much I loved the Disney world and zeitgeist. I do have two younger siblings, so at the time, as I was getting older, I was still kind of connected to the feature films, such as Cars and the more lesser quality Disney Pixar stuff. I was, aware of them, but I wasn't as passionate about them as I was the Renaissance films back in the day. As I moved into high school, it wasn't cool to watch Disney or Pixar movies, so I just kind of dropped that entirely. The whole passion of wanting to be an Imagineer kind of died down too. It was kind of like a closet hobby where I would still look up YouTube videos and stuff about Disney, but it wasn't something I wanted to pursue as a career anymore. That kind of died. And then I was also getting older and researching, right? So I used to do biographies on Walt Disney when I was a kid in school. This is the middle school time. And then now I'm realizing, okay, he wasn't the greatest person. There's, the company wasn't morally great in certain things. I mean, no company is, let's not kid ourselves, but it definitely kind of put a stink on everything, especially when I started looking at what it was like to work at Disney and the working conditions there. So that really turned me off to the whole thing. But I still kept up to date with rides and stuff like that, and I still do to this day look up updates and stuff like that, TPM vids. I watch that quite frequently and stuff like that. But I'm not the hardcore Disney mega fans that watch everything that comes out, that go to the parks, that have the yearly passes, or heck, even the people that live, the Disney adults that live in those communities. It never got to that point, thank God. Then Disney did what Disney does and acquired a bunch of properties such as Marvel and Star Wars, so they kind of got me back in it as a young teen. I was super into the MCU, phases 1 through 3, and the Avengers. They were the big event, right? It used to be the event was to go to theaters to see the next Disney or Pixar movie. Now the big thing was to go, especially my age, to go see stuff such as, the Marvel movies. And I was obsessed with them. There's no kidding that I was absolutely obsessed with them. I was one of those annoying MCU bros. But this was phase 1 through phase 3, so the content for the most part was still very good. Star Wars, I never really loved Star Wars. I know that might get me some hate. I actually, because of my age, I was more of a prequel enjoyer. Now, I would not say that, but I was when I was younger. I liked episodes 1 through 3 a little bit more. Now that I'm more mature and can, appreciate cinema, definitely that first trilogy was much better. But once Disney had acquired Star Wars, I think it's been downhill ever since. I don't think they've really produced anything that's really good besides a few seasons of Mandalorian, and then I haven't seen Andor, but I've heard a lot of people say it's the next best thing to that original trilogy. But I don't think Disney has ever really gotten a good grasp on Star Wars. They did, however, have a really good grasp on the MCU for a very long time. So as a teen, that's kind of what kept me in that Disney space and going to the theaters and stuff like that. And then when it came to the Disney movies, yeah, I went out to see Frozen because I wanted to see what the hype was about. I did like it, the first one. But besides that, I didn't really make my way to go see a Disney movie. However, I did work in a hospital where I worked with kids, and whenever, you know, there was a movie or something that they wanted to see on Disney Plus, I would definitely put it on, and I would be enjoying it too. It's one of those things, you know, like that's what the old Disney was about, was kids would love it, but then the parents could also appreciate it. It wasn't just for kids, it was all ages, a general audience. So that's where I watched Zootopia on there. I watched Moana, I think I watched Moana on there. Some of the even better, you know, movies that came out, Coco, like I adore those movies. So I kind of got back in it, but more in a this is a profession, I'm watching kids, so I'm watching it kind of like that was kind of like my excuse, you know, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. If you're a full-grown adult and go out to see a Disney movie, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a creep. It's just that was my mental state back when I was like 20, 21, early adult years, so to speak. But why am I talking about any of this? Why am I over here ranting for 6 minutes on the things I love and hate about Disney? Well, that's because Disney announced some things recently, and it's really had me like flabbergasted and kind of wondering what direction we're going with the company. And then it also ties in, of course, because it's Disney, to Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 4. And there's always a way I'm going to link things up and tie things back to Kingdom Hearts, because that's what most of this channel is about, right? So, what's going on? Disney has announced a bunch of new movies coming out this year, next year, and in 2026. And at first, I was really upset about it. I was really emotional about it. Not emotional like it, like, you know, I was crying or stomping my feet. It's just like, you know, when something happens or you're told something and your emotion side of your brain kicks in first before your logical side? Something like that. That's what I mean by that. I wasn't like actually emotional about something. It's just what I thought about it was more so an emotion based than a logic based until I sat down and really stewed on it and thought about it. But anyway, if you haven't been kind of following through where I'm going with this, Disney had that renaissance, right? They really took off. Then they had some dips because you can't stay on top forever. They acquired some things. They were up at the top again. They changed leadership, they ruined a bunch of stuff, and then Disney has been on a downward trajectory. Regardless of how much money Disney makes all the time and that they're still very, very profitable, it's not as profitable as they wanted it to be because Disney Plus and the Bob Chapek era, the previous CEO, kind of ruined a lot of things and really kind of hurt the brand altogether. And I might do a video on that. If you guys want to see a video of me doing that, comment down below. It's a lot more nuanced, but the footnotes are he took over Bob Iger. Bob Chapek, I know they're both Bobs, it's confusing, wanted to really emphasize Disney Plus and really put everything on Disney Plus. So he basically put every Pixar and Disney animated movie straight to Disney Plus. Made it seem like they weren't big events, they weren't anything to go to the theater for. You could just wait for, you know, them to hit Disney Plus and you'll be fine. Or they'll do day and date release with like Turning Red and stuff like that. And they deserved full movie releases. He even went on quote and said that people don't care about animated movies anymore. And it's like, my guy, you are the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Its whole foundation started with animation. Regardless of how that animation evolved into more 3D animation, it was still animation. So he was kind of on something there. And then pumping out a complete factory of MCU stuff that just was worse and worse in quality the more that came out. Movies and Disney Plus shows. And a lot of that was they stripped Kevin Feige a lot of his power. Before Bob Chapek, Kevin Feige reported to like one other person, and then that person reported to Bob Iger, but he had a lot of creative control. Once Chapek came over, the entire internal organization was shifted around, and there was a lot of middle management, stuff like that. So I don't completely blame the failings of the recent Phase 4 or 5 of the MCU and Kevin Feige completely, because there was that shakeup in corporate. However, what I'm saying is, Marvel was on a downward trajectory and has been for a very long time. I have not... After Endgame, there were like a few good ones. Guardians 3 is the last one I can think of where there were actually good movies. I actually did a ranking of Marvel movies. I don't think it's the most recent, but you can check that out after this. And then So I burnt out. A lot of people burnt out. The Disney Plus shows were nothing special. WandaVision was like the only good thing. Star Wars, I think, has always been a downward trajectory. I don't think they've ever been able to hit off Star Wars the way they wanted it to. They want it to be like the second MCU. Sure, you have the mega fans still that will buy and consume everything, but that's different. And then the animation was kind of put on hold, or at least a back burner. So now that Bob Iger has come out of retirement to help save the Disney brand before he re-retires, he's kind of steering the ship and changing things again and trying to figure out how to fix and course correct things. Box office wise, Disney movies and Marvel movies and Pixar movies have not been doing well. Elemental surprisingly grew legs after word of mouth went along, and it's not like all of these movies are bad, but a lot of them are definitely not up to the standard that Disney has had. The biggest one I can think of is Wish. Wish was terrible, I heard. I didn't see it, but from everything that I've heard, reviews and stuff like that, it was really showing that there was no passion, no love. Disney really became that money printing machine that it is. And don't get me wrong, they need money in order to keep entertainment and keep content going. It's this weird vicious circle, but you have to have good quality, and their quality has been declining and declining and declining in all these different departments. So, what have they decided to do? Well, a few days ago, Bob Iger announced a few movies and projects coming out in the next 3 years. And like I said, at first I was really angry and like, this is just creative bankruptcy. They have no actual vision or ideas. But after stewing on it, listening to the John Campea show, hearing his takes on it, I've kind of had a little bit of a change in opinions. But I also did a video recently, and you should definitely check out. It's all the Disney Worlds I think are coming to Kingdom Hearts 4. I think this announcement that Bob Iger did kind of sparks more facts and merits and evidence for these worlds coming in to Kingdom Hearts 4, and I might be more right than I thought. So definitely check out that video after this. Bob Iger announced to the shareholders and Disney execs that some movies coming out are going to be basically all sequels to really big IP. We already heard of some of these, but now they've been confirmed dates. We're getting Toy Story 5, we're getting Frozen 3, we're getting Inside Out 2, we're also getting, what else? We're getting Moana 2, Zootopia 2, and even a live-action Moana. I kind of breezed over the live-action stuff, but that's another tactic Disney has been using because it's easy money to just remake a lot of the Renaissance classic movies in live-action. Some to big avail, some to not so great. Lion King, although it sucked as a movie, it made them billions of dollars, so of course they're going to keep doing it. I didn't see Little Mermaid. I really liked the Cinderella one way back in the day because it was actually an adaptation. It wasn't one for one. And I also really liked the Aladdin one. But those were the only live-action ones that I enjoyed. Anyway, I'm going off course. So I was upset. I was like, okay, they have no creative ideas in the think tank. They're just going to recycle known IP so that way they can just suck on that teat of the cash cow. They can keep beating the dead horse, but still getting all that money. And to a certain extent, yes. However, when I was, like I said, listening to the John Campea show, he gave some more details on the Moana sequel, and it's got my perspective changed a little bit. At least for Moana 2. Moana 2 was actually going to be a show on Disney Plus, but Bob Iger checked it out and said that it was such a good quality, he wanted it to be a theatrical release. And that means that he was respecting the team, the creative team, so much that he was going to elevate their content. And, I mean, yes, it's still going to be a good business decision. So that one I can forgive. Inside Out 2, there's a lot you can do with that concept that they set up. So I'm okay with that one. Frozen 3 is solely to print money. Like, come on. Frozen 2 was not as good as Frozen 1. Frozen 1 was kind of like lightning in a bottle. Kids love it, though. This one is definitely, we're just going to throw that in here because it's going to ensure us we're going to make $1 billion. Because I'm pretty sure Frozen 1 and Frozen 2 separately made $1 billion each. And I think Frozen 2 was not nearly as good as Frozen 1, and they really didn't have a story. There's a whole documentary, actually, on YouTube that I really recommend you check out, based on the whole development cycle of Frozen 2 and how Disney refused to let them delay, even though they knew they weren't ready for release. And that's kind of what caused Frozen 2 to kind of be so iffy, because the team really wanted to put work and passion into it, but Disney was like, no, we're not doing that. We need this out. We need money now. So, yeah, that's a very interesting one. Toy Story 5, we don't need it. I said that about Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 was okay, but we really don't need another one. if the story's good enough, then I guess, but as soon as it gets bad, like, we need to kill that franchise off, because, I mean, the third one was such a good end to everything. Even the fourth one was a good end, and I'm really confused, because Tom Hanks said he wasn't coming back as Woody, but is he now for Toy Story 5? Because you can't really have Toy Story without Buzz and Woody, even though Toy Story 4 and 3 actually didn't really have Buzz too much as the stuff. Anyway, moving on. These new sequels will actually help Kingdom Hearts out a lot, and Kingdom Hearts will help these movies out a lot by making the stories and characters relevant again. I mean, they've never gone away, but bringing them into that cycle before these movies come out and just reminding people why they used to love Disney so much and these characters will really help, and we'll get new creative worlds and designs for Kingdom Hearts. So it's a win-win when you think about it that way. I do want more original, creative Disney content when it comes to animation and movies, and I even want original MCU stories and stuff like that. We'll just have to wait and see. I realize that I'm getting older and more cynical about this stuff, so that's something to factor in as well. We'll just have to see. It just sucks being such a huge mega Disney fan for so many early years and then kind of evolving that later on and then being like, okay, they're dropping the ball now. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Disney has been going downhill lately, or have you been loving the content that they've been putting out? I'm really curious to know your thoughts, especially on these sequels that they've announced. Do you think we need these movies? And what do you think overall this means for Kingdom Hearts as a whole franchise, not just Kingdom Hearts 4? I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm being cautiously optimistic because overall Disney just wants money and they're going to do it by any means necessary as quickly as possible, taking as many shortcuts as possible, which, you know, hurts the quality. But we'll just have to see. That's all for this video. Thank you for listening to me rant for so long. I really do appreciate it if you made it to the end. Thank you so much. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps out the channel. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Hey, we're leaving.